Andrew. Some people know me as KA, as in kicking ass, and I know that's from kick ass, but in my case, you can reverse it to KA to ass kicked. Anyway, it is, I was still looking for a nickname for myself, and I'm like, hey, KA, kicking ass. And then I was like, hey, isn't that copyrighted? Whatever, it's my initials. I'm still working on that. Anyway, you don't know me as Keith Andrew, and you're watching the Keith Andrew Network. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and stay up to date with my current interviews and fan-made parodies. Today on the talk show, we have up-and-coming filmmaker and actor, B. Christopher. So Christopher, thank you for joining with us.
Thank you, Keith, for reaching out to me and letting me be part of your show. I appreciate it.
No, absolutely. The honor's all mine. Now, for people who want to know what my talk show is about, the whole point of my talk show is to show people that even with having a learning disability, I can still amount to something. And at the same time, I'm able to turn myself into an example for people out there dealing with any types of learning disabilities and disabilities to never give up and prove people wrong. Prove to them that labels do not dictate who you are and who you're going to be. So prove to them you can stem out to something. So hashtag break the labels. So that being said, half hour every time. I know you're a busy guy, so we're going to keep it for a half hour. Wrote down some interesting questions that I saw from your profile that I want to talk to you about. And the first question I was going to ask you was, you moved from Dallas, Texas to New York. How did that happen?
Before I get into why I moved, it really had to do with me pursuing an acting career. Some 8 years ago now, I kind of decided I wanted to be an actor very very naively, and when I made that decision, I went to go study at New York Film Academy. I did a little small 3-month course, and it was at that decision I kind of decided this is for me. I was told at that time I needed to go and study. I had a little bit of motivation for people telling me, hey, you're good, but you need to go learn technique and form and everything. And when I went to New York, I loved the city so much. I came back to Dallas, and I started working at a production company. So at that time, I went to go live in New York for some 2 years. We started making a lot of films at this production company. And then I moved back to Dallas, still with the same production company. And now, currently, I'm living in Georgia. Just recently, I just moved here in January, so I haven't been here that long. Still pursuing the acting career. So I've been jumping around a lot, and there's a lot of places I've been between New York and Dallas. But it's the acting life always is, auditioning, you get a gig here, you get a gig there. You never know where you're going to be. I guess that's part of the beauty of the business, So currently I am here in Georgia. I'm not in New York right now. And I do go back home to Dallas once in a while.
Okay. And January is a very special month for me because, one, I was born in January. And January is also the home of the Royal Rumble for any wrestling fans out there. Just throwing a little plug for WWE. But also a reason January is very special, like I said, it's for me. But the reason it's special is because it's something unique about January. January is it's the start of a new year. You can start fresh. Whatever, BS that happened before that in a whole year, you can just sweep it under the rug and move on. You just basically, you have a plate that's dirty, you throw it away, do what you do, and there you go. It's a brand new month and a brand new time. Just start over.
That's so true. I mean, when I moved here, that's exactly how I felt. I felt like everything was carte blanche, blank slate. Like I had no limitations whatsoever. And funny thing is, like, by the way, what day are you in January?
Oh, 24.
24th? Okay. I'm the 23rd of December, so, pretty close. Um, I I learned something when I came here, and I've been paying attention to this a lot. And I don't know if uh, you you follow the same kind of philosophy, but I believe you do, without really knowing, all the details. But I started listening to my body, and I started listening to signs in my body, in my stomach, as I'm getting older, I realized that my health really has it's so important. I mean, when I was 18, for example, I would just go and eat whatever, I would drink whatever, I'd, if I'd get drunk, I'd get drunk, whatever. It didn't really matter, I'd live for the day, which is okay for a while. But as I got older, I started noticing that, your body changes, and you don't necessarily feel the same, compared to when you're 18 or 15 or whatever. And, I hit 30, and I probably feel better now than I did when I was 25 or 21, just because of the awareness or the mindfulness I put into, my routine or my, my diet or whatever. But more importantly, what I put in my mind, and who I talk to and who I associate with. That's very important for me in my life. And I realized that, that's another part of that food, that diet that nobody really talks about, at least not in the mainstream. But when I made this change, in my life to kind of like decide, like, yeah, I'm going to make the move, like it was very connected. Like, I mean, I'd wake up in the morning, and one day that I would like, because I work sometimes at night, so I would kind of wake up late sometimes, and, my schedule's really crazy. It's all over the place. And I would realize whenever I would just pig out and eat, something I'm not supposed to eat, like it would just throw off the rest of my week, not the next day or whatever, it would like catch up to me. But I've just been noticing that it's very, very essential, to just ground yourself as much as you can, and just, take the time to just breathe and listen to your body and listen to your surroundings, because, you need to enjoy this process. Many of us are just living from day to day, 9 to 5, let's do this, let's do that, we need to get things done, we need to get things, yeah, but get what done, and you really need to think, and use some time for yourself just to, analyze, what this whole thing is about, and, thank God, or whatever you want to call, the higher power, that something has been like guiding me in my life to just pay attention to certain things that are important to me and the people around me, And that's why, honestly, Keith, your message kind of called out to me. It was like very, I don't know, bold, just the way you came out, because I get a lot of messages, believe it or not, from strangers. But for whatever reason, like, there isn't always a connection.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I pay attention to that connection, and yeah. So I don't know why I went off on that tangent, but it just felt like necessary. I needed to kind of get that off my chest.
No, that's fine. And I kind of noticed you hesitated when you want to say the word God. And, I'm Jewish, and I don't walk around labeling myself, as some people say, a Jew, or and I don't do Jewish things. I do celebrate the holidays out of respect for my family. That's it. But I don't really, besides, it's like this. Christmas and Hanukkah, it's the same thing. It should be on the same day, make it easier for everyone. Rosh Hashanah on the New Year or Yom Kippur. I'm Jewish, but I really don't know the Jewish holidays. The New Year's should be on January. But like I said, I just follow the holidays out of respect for my parents. Besides that, I believe in God. I believe in the devil. Now, yin yang, there have to be, because there's always a balance. Up, down, left, right, good, bad, and, God, devil. But there's always a balance. But I don't really like to label myself.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of better that way if you kind of look at it, because it's kind of like a load off, saying you don't have to live a certain lifestyle. You don't have to be known for this. You don't have to be. I don't like following the sheep. I'm like a wolf. I like walking, and if I see something, I'm going to go straight for it. I'm not going to follow the flock.
No, and I like that. I like that philosophy because it's the natural way. It's the natural way to do things. I don't mean to step on anybody's toes or like criticize any religion or criticize anybody's way of thinking. I think everybody has the right to think whatever they want to think, and that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Me personally, like there reaches a point in your life where you realize there's not enough time in the day to criticize people. There's not enough time in the day to be involved in gossip. There's not enough time in the day to, pit yourself against one another. Oh, they're Democrat, oh, they're Republican, oh, they're Christian, oh, they're Muslim, oh, they're gay, they're straight. I mean, who cares? I could die tomorrow, and all that didn't really matter.
Yeah.
But when someone is loving, when someone's compassionate, when someone's understanding, and when they have an open mind and an open heart, for some reason, it doesn't matter what they are, what creed they are, you connect with that person. Why is that? Because you're kind of following the laws of nature. I mean, if you go outside, with your dog, your dog is connected to nature. The birds are connected to nature. But we're the only species that disregards nature. We constructed a very acidic a very acidic structure in society, and yet we expect good outcomes to come from an acidic environment. Acidic from our, foods that we eat, acidic from our conversations that we have, from the media, and the social media that we drench ourselves with every day. So of course, if we disconnect from nature, which is God, if you want to think of it in that way, I do believe that, but we don't do that, for the most, for the whole, general consensus of the population. So we just, like I said, follow the laws of nature and just do as we're supposed to. Hey, you're rewarded, and you're rewarded first with your body. And I don't just believe that. I mean, I know it because, I've done it myself. I've seen other people who have taught me, hey, just take it easy. You don't have a lot of time on this earth to be, putting yourself in this box and this stigma, because it's made up. It's fake,
No, I agree. And, I was just thinking about a couple of jokes. And, like Fox News scaring all white people. I heard that from a comedian. And the other one, it's just, it's from a cartoon, but if you really think about it, it's kind of true. Are you a fan of Dragon Ball Z?
I'm not going to lie to you. I watched it when I was a kid. I wouldn't call myself, like, a fan, because I don't know enough about it, but I did watch, some when I was a kid with a couple of friends of mine.
The reason I love that show, and the reason I bring it up, there's a villain in Super called Zamos, and it's called the Zero Mortal Plan, and it says the human race is a disease. And I was thinking, that's kind of hard-hitting for a cartoon, and then I was watching the news and the whole, the Arab Spring and all the wars and in North Korea. And I'm like, he has a point. The human race is a disease. But with every disease, there's also an antidote. And then in that antidote, it's balance. But with that being said, it doesn't matter if you're white, black, Spanish, Asian. In every race, you gotta cut it in half. And it's 50-50. Half are good, half are bad. And, when, we're talking and we're having a great time, it's that chemistry. And that chemistry is how you connect to people. And there's other people that they walk around with their heads up their ass and they say they're the problem. So it's pretty much, I do agree that the human race is kind of like a disease because you have all these disasters going on, unnecessary shootings, like the whole, not to go into whole politics things, but if you really look at it carefully in us, you can make a little list that says, okay, life would be good without this, life would be good without that.
Yeah.
But, not to get off on subject, but I'm just saying that, for me, I like the internet, but I talk to my parents, they say the worst thing ever invented is the internet. And then you have, the whole religious fanatics, religion's good. But then you have the crazy people. And then you can say music is good. But then you have the music nuts. So I see things from black and white because it's not always got to be good or bad. So I'm going on a real rant. It's not going to be always good and bad. It's always got to have a balance to it. And it's all about keeping that balance. It's how you keep things in order, if that makes any sense.
No, of course. And you know what? I like your analogy because I know it sounds super philosophical and preachy, but it's like this. I mean, even water is deadly. If you go and you drink, a gallon or 2 gallons in less than, 5 minutes, you're going to die, So something that is good could essentially be a weapon towards yourself,
Yeah.
You don't know what you're doing or if you get caught up in some kind of, craze. So, yeah, I completely agree with you. In my opinion, I love what you said because I've been saying that for a long time, that the internet is probably our savior right now. And the reason I say that is because it's been able to connect the world in an age of information. Now, of course, we're drowning in, an overabundance of information, some corrupted, some not. How to distinguish what's corrupted and what isn't? Now, that takes some really fine-tuning, some discernment, some common sense, of course, and that takes time, Chris, 18 years, Chris, 30, total different viewpoints and total different ways of looking at the world. I'm pretty sure you feel the same way. But in my opinion, anything could be good and anything could be bad. Like I used to kind of think the same, kind of like your parents, like, oh my God, the internet's doing all this, it's putting all this opportunity for these crazy people. But now I think it's an amazing tool if you use it right.
Yeah.
If you inspire people, if you connect people in a certain way, and of course, there's a lot of, I don't want to sound too conspiracy theorist, but it's really fact. I mean, there's a lot of powers out in the world working against humanity in order to, keep people confused, and keep people from knowing certain truths about themselves. And that's the saddest thing. The saddest thing is really when we realize our own potential, this is why I like, the whole message behind what you're saying. You're unstoppable, and no one can do anything to you. The only thing that can take you out is death, and even death is is not something to fear, you know. So it's just a natural part of this whole game we're living, you know.
Two things I like to say real fast. I'm gonna pass the show over to you. What's the last 10 minutes? You know, name one person that got out of life alive. And then you think about it, there's no one in history that got out of life alive. You don't get out alive. So death is basically, the next step. What is next step? You either, it's gonna be like this, but in a different reality. If I ever die, and I am morbid, and I said I want to do my life over, knowing everything I know now. Then I was kind of like, that would make me crazy. I'm 40 years old and I know I'm going to be a talk show host. How about this? Do it in stages. From when I'm born to about school. Just be nice to be, because I was hyper as a kid. Not be so hyper. Learn on education. Spend as much time as your grandparents. That's my biggest regret. It's not spend as much time as my grandparents. When you get into school, don't piss people off. Pass. Save as much money as possible. But at the same time, you were talking about the technology, and I'll pass the show over in 1 second, is that, let's look at it like this. I found out Skype was created in 2003. Unfortunately, I don't know about the video cameras, like what we're doing now. But if you went back to 1990, I graduated in 2006. If you went back to 1996, there's no Skype. There's no internet. There's none of this. The only way I would pursue my career is radio. And from radio, you probably, if you're good enough, go on TV. Now you can have your own live studio, like from where you are, from where I am, and if it's good enough, hopefully, knock on wood, and we'll go to Netflix and Hulu. But at the same time, it's kind of like, I'll give you an example. Recently we had a snowstorm and everything went out. Now, back in the 90s, you had a hardline phone. So, yes, you had a hardline, it still worked. Well, you would hope to God it still worked. But, apparently it still worked. Now, if someone farts the wrong way, or if there's a solar flare, everything goes dead and you're back in the Stone Age. So, sometimes the old ways are better. With that being said, I'm going to pass the show over to you.
Yeah, I mean, here's what I love about this new age, and I don't mean that like in a philosophical way. I mean like new age of technology, that it's given the liberty to anybody with a voice, to go out and tell their story, no matter where you come from or whatever, and I think I'm just throwing out a number off the top of my head. I'm not reading like statistics or some poll or whatever, but it's just my experience. I deal with people every single day. I'm an actor by trade, but I do a lot of odd jobs sometimes, and I talk to a lot of different people. And I would say there's a shift right now going on, but in my personal opinion, I find that half people are kind of disconnecting themselves from mainstream stigmatic way of thinking, So people are always searching for honest content. That's why YouTube is such a big thing, because people with something really cool to say, something impactful, something honest, something useful, are saying something on a channel, and people will, go and subscribe and wait for their videos that are posted, every other day. I do it personally. I've gotten tons of great information and wise information beyond reason off of YouTube sometimes. You know, not all the time. You gotta, you know, kind of pick and choose. You know, I'm sure you're very aware, Keith. But it's a beautiful thing. You know, that didn't exist in 2007 or whatever, whenever YouTube took over. You know, so like it's crazy that, you know, just in one little generation, this has just shifted and it's given the population, you know, the opportunity to make something of it, or like you said, get yourself in this negative mentality and be like, well, you know, it's bad for us and this and that. Yeah, there are certain aspects of it that are, of course, they're bad. And can bad things happen? Of course, you know, like there's bad people out there, you know. I mean, it's not our responsibility and our obligation to just constantly worry. And, you know, coming to the point, not to go off a tangent, but I think it's very important to not live in fear, Keith. You know, that's why I reiterate, like I love, you know, what you say and how you present yourself, because what you're doing, in my opinion, is you're not living in fear, you know. And unfortunately, you know, when we're talking about the sheep, you know, anybody can be a sheep, you know. And I think, you know, if you live in this fear mentality, you get nothing done in your life. And if you do, it's an illusion. Why? Because you're living in accordance to other people's dreams. You're living in accordance to, you know, your boss's dream, or your parents' dream, or your brother's dream, or your friend's dream. And that's sad. That's sad. When you really start to open your eyes to that, you start to realize that, man, there's tons of people living that way. No. However, that being said, the positive side to the internet is that it opens the floodgates to people like you and me who are doing maybe or maybe not something unique, you know, or we have something to say and we get to say it. You know, it's like Aaron Swartz. Aaron Swartz is probably one of my, I don't want to say idol, but I really respected Aaron Swartz's whole philosophy. If you don't know who Aaron Swartz is, he was one of the co-founders of Reddit. They did a really good documentary about him called The Internet's Own Boy. And Aaron Swartz had, of course, a very bad ending in his life. But basically his whole philosophy was sharing information. And unfortunately that got him in trouble with the government, and you know, he committed suicide at the end of his life. But what really inspired me about him is that he would go out and do it. You know, he wouldn't ask questions. You know, he wouldn't wait for someone's, you know, approval. And that has to be admired in this day and age of such tight restrictions, such tight, you know, governmental, you know, control over us. I mean, we really are living in some crazy Orwellian society, you know, more so than what Orwell even predicted. But yet, at the same time, and it sounds very double standard, we live in a society of a lot of openness and a lot of opportunity to spread truth. You know, I think that's very important, to spread truth. How do you decipher what is truth from what is phony? You know, that's quite interesting, you know? It's quite interesting. When your only form of information is the mainstream media, when your only form of information is, you know, the radio or whatever, you know, not to say that everybody's lying, that'd be crazy to say, but it doesn't allow us to get off of a crutch, you know, and to think for ourselves critically, and to act for ourselves critically, to educate ourselves with information that may or may not benefit us. And I think, for me, it started with health. You know, once I started realizing that if I just changed my patterns, you know, my eating patterns and stuff, and my eat certain foods, like I felt totally different. I just had clarity. I would be nicer. I would be more direct. I would go for what I needed to do, and it made such a huge difference in my life. And then once that happened, it just started like snowballing and snowballing and snowballing and snowballing. And then I realized I have nothing to complain about. I have nothing to complain about. Like I'm living my dream. It's just how far do I want to take it? Do I want to sit there and complain about the lack of opportunities? Well, then I'll become that person, and all those things will just come to me. But if I want to be a person like you, Keith, and say I'm going to do it, and who cares? Let's make something happen. You're going to attract miracles, and you're going to attract all the other stuff. All the positive things that you want in your life. And it's simple, but we dilute it and we confuse it and we get all in our heads, because there's a million voices out there and we don't listen to the one that's the most important, ourselves, So, I think that's why silence, a little bit of time away from the phone, a little bit of time away from, I know this sounds messed up, but even from your parents, even from your family, like, you need time to relax, to breathe, and just analyze your whole movement, your whole, why are you doing this? Why aren't you doing this? Or, like, people aren't connected with themselves anymore, But there is a certain amount of the population that is starting to do it, and that not only makes me happy, but it gives me hope, because I am kind of an optimist, but more than that, like I said, like, what is truth, and how do you resonate with that truth? If you're not living in honesty, as much as you can, you're not living at all. You're just breathing, taking up space, walking around here and there, but you're not doing anything. You're a zombie, in physical, in human form. So, for me, the internet has allowed us to connect with like-minded people and to live our dream, if you choose so. So, like, that's the lovely part of the internet. And I kind of rambled on and ranted on, but it was really all about that. Like, it's allowed us to connect with each other in just an open way. Like, we're living in an amazing, beautiful time, honestly. But we also have an obligation and a responsibility, to use these platforms like you have to, like, be super honest and inspiring, not to be cliche, but it's very important, I mean, look at all the mainstream media outlets like CNN and Fox and CNBC and blah, blah, blah. I don't even watch television anymore just because the amount of lies they tell, and you don't have to be, a genius to put it together, it's all lies, sprinkled with some truth, and I don't want to step on anybody's toes. I'm not trying to preach a philosophy or a religion or anything like that. I'm just telling you, like, that's the issue, we pit ourselves against each other, I'm Democrat, I'm Republican, I'm like, who cares? Like, I mean, we're all just people trying to live and trying to be happy. Isn't this what it's all about?
No, absolutely. Now, wrapping up our interview, I do have a couple questions for you off the air. But it was, first thing I said to you, was when I first approached you to be a guest on my talk show, what was your first reaction? And actually, that's my first question. And the second one, are you on social media? Are you on LinkedIn, Twitter, Stage 32? Are you on any of those?
Yeah, I am. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. That's it. I really don't use Twitter. I have an account. I really don't use it that much. I probably should, but I'm mainly on those 3 social media platforms.
Okay. And my last question for you is, when I first approached you to be a guest on my talk show, what was your first reaction, and what made you say yes?
Well, first off, number one, you gave me a very direct and super concise, like, what you're about. You didn't give me, like, and you know, like, I make this mistake a lot, you know. I make the mistake of, like, rambling sometimes. But I've been learning that you just gotta get to the point. You know, go straight to the point. You know, and you went straight to the point. You're like, hey, this is who I am, this is what I'm about, and this is what I'm trying to do. Boom. And I love that. You know, it's like super direct, super honest, and you know, there's nothing much to it, you know, and I love the fact that you're like, you're in touch with who you are, you know, you're not like just trying to hide, like, oh, well, you know, I don't have a disability. It's like, yeah, I have this, so what, you know, and I love that. I really like it. Otherwise, you know, I mean, I'm telling you, I'm not exaggerating. I'm not trying to say I'm somebody, because I'm not some, you know, like, I get tons of messages. And for whatever reason, sometimes, like, I don't feel like, but just on LinkedIn, specifically on LinkedIn, not like on Facebook or Instagram, but on LinkedIn, you know, you get tons of people coming through and asking to connect. And for whatever reason, like, you just can't connect with someone or whatever. It just doesn't happen, you know, whatever. But with you, it was different. And I'm not trying to say this because I'm on your show. I really mean it. Like, I don't know. Like, I felt like it was an honest conversation, and I really, really appreciate you reaching out to me, man. Like, really, really. You're inspiring me. You know, it's like like you're feeding, you know, my energy or something. You know.
No, absolutely. I do have a couple questions for you off the air. But wrapping up our interview segment, it was a real honor and privilege having you as a guest, and I'm looking forward to part 2 down the road.
Likewise. I look forward to getting in touch and keep on inspiring people if you can. You know.
Very. Arlene Schofield.
My name is Shireen Snow.
My name is Carla A. Miles.
Diana Camuto.
This is Christine Dunford.
I'm me, Eden.
Caroline Macy. This is Walker Fannin.
I'm Camille Dixon.
I'm Dates Wardam.
My name is Linda Preston, and you're watching the Keith Andrew Network.
Me, Mark Medley.
Hi everybody, this is Mark Neely.
Barry Papick.
This is Peter Bruno.
My name is Kyle Collier.
This is Julio Santiago, better known as Dynamite.
I'm Richard Epcar.
Orange Chow.
This is Kerrigan Mahan.
This is Goldar.
And we both support
Keith Andrew.
My name is Ron Wasserman, and I am supporting Keith Andrew and what he is doing, and you better do the same, or I'm gonna come kick your ass.